If you're interested in the Overwatch Precision PolyDAT Trigger, give this video a quick watch. I'm going to show you how to install it. I'm going to tell you why I have it. And most importantly, we're going to do a little shooting with it, all right? Together. Now the bajillion-dollar question is, does everything work right? What's up, everybody? We're back. A new change of scenery. Ranges have rules that are dumb sometimes, and living in Pennsylvania, finding a public outdoor range that doesn't have rules is hard. So you're gonna see about 50 shots from a totally different setting where there are leaves on the trees and bright sunshine. And that was actually the first time that I shot my Glock 19 with my Overwatch Precision Trigger in it. So I think we got 50 rounds through it before a bunch of fudge showed up on the range and gave us a hard time. And so it's been a month I've carried the gun, trusting I'm not gonna die. And we're gonna give it a better shake here today and see how it actually runs through a couple hundred rounds, all right? So get ready and we'll jump right in. Overall, it feels really good. I think in my initial intro, I had recorded that I had a tier trigger in here, and I shot that for like 6 years. I really like that trigger. So this feels different. I don't know yet if I like it different, but it's not bad, that's for sure. So we're gonna keep shooting and see what happens. All right, so I've noticed that it's a little, like, it almost feels like it's getting caught up somewhere sometimes. And I think it's right there. I think the safety is sometimes slightly striking and getting caught on the frame of the Glock in there. And it seems to be if I don't get it fully depressed before I shoot, and this is hot so I don't want to actually do it. But if I start pushing with my finger on the trigger itself, then the safety gets snagged on the frame. But I felt it hang up a few times as I couldn't figure out why, and that's why. And now that I'm cognizant of that, I know to push flatter on the face of the trigger. I don't have to keep shooting to see if it's going to keep being a problem, but that definitely caught my finger to the point that I couldn't pull the trigger back when I did that right there and showed you. If you
it's flat.
Push the, yeah, if the face of the trigger, if the trigger goes back and you don't have it literally locks it up.
One thing with the flat triggers is you definitely have to,
because there's so much more meat behind it, you know?
Yeah, so this is to show the difference between the Glock curved trigger, which mimics the trigger that I had in here previously, and this flat trigger. So on the Glock trigger, even if you pull it back, I don't know how to do this without, what we're trying to show is that if this is back, can you still shoot the gun? And the answer is yes. You can push this back, and as soon as you, it still kind of locks up. But I think the curve of the Glock trigger makes it harder to not depress the safety through the motion. And this is kind of hard to show, so I kind of apologize that it's not real clear. But this, I'm pushing on the shoulder of this face, and it's pulling it backward like this. And then by the time the pad of my finger gets to the safety, it's quite locked up on the frame. Now I can force my way through it, but I couldn't figure out what was getting bound up in the process, and it's the safety actually doing its job. The problem is I'm not used to shooting it where the safety's snagging like that, so I don't know if I just need to change my form or if it's just, you know, not that the trigger's not good, but maybe I just don't like it. I haven't decided that yet.
There's just more meat to that safety too, behind the trigger.
Yeah, there's a, you could see there's a ton of depth to that, and I don't know if it's the cutout on the trigger face or if it really is deeper than the Glock trigger, but it certainly appears to be deeper.
The one thing that flat trigger does, though, is forces you to get your finger in a position where it's pulling straight back and not curling off.
Yeah.
It's a training thing. And again, know your gun.
Yep. And that's what I'll need to decide, is if I want to shoot my way through it and just relearn how to touch my own trigger, or if I just drop my other trigger back in. All right, I got 2 more mags to try out this Overwatch Precision PolyDAT Trigger. You should have seen by now that the safety got hung up on the frame, which is the safety's job. I want to emphasize it's not doing anything wrong. What I need to determine here is, do I want to relearn how to press the trigger after shooting a different trigger for so long? Because clearly there's a mechanical change needed with the way I use my finger on the trigger if I'm going to get used to this trigger. So I'm going to run it a little bit more, and then I'll probably have to do a lot more dry fire practice to really determine how big of a deal it actually is as far as my own shooting goes. All right, so that time I obviously was aware that it was an issue and I shot it fine, which makes me think it's just a technical thing on my side where I just need to dry fire a bunch with this trigger to get used to the change in feeling, and probably I won't even notice it by the time it's all said and done. So overall, I think it's a great trigger. It feels better shooting than it does in dry fire. We were all playing around with it before we were shooting. It doesn't have a strong reset. It feels kind of mushy. When you add in the slide moving back and forth and the firing, the striker and all those things moving around, the trigger itself seems to actually feel much better when it's being shot versus when it's just being dry fired. So you can stay tuned for a follow-up video as I determine whether or not I'm going to keep using this. But at the moment, I don't have anything wrong to say about it. I just personally need to relearn the way that I shoot and how I use my trigger finger on this exact gun. All right, so if you like content like this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. We do a mix of shooting and hunting related videos, and this is just kind of my way to share my passions with the world, for us to get a practice at making content and for you to learn some things for free. Thank you so much.